And welcome back to Make Your Pokemon Team video series. Still haven't figured out what I'm actually calling this. Fan-made Pokemon teams, character teams, whatever. Point being, the series where we choose a character from fiction, or hell, even in real life, mostly fiction, and basically decide what would a Pokemon team for these characters look like. This one comes to us from Burn the Flame Dragon, and you asked the question, what would Iron Man's Pokemon team be? Now, when picking out Pokemon to be on Iron Man's team, several immediately came to mind. But more importantly, and 1 second here, I think I'm missing a Pokemon. Am I missing a Pokemon? Let's see here. No, okay, we're fine. Yeah, we're fine. Now, when picking out a team for Iron Man, I had to factor in several things. One, we obviously have to factor in the suit. The suit has to be a factor in picking out Iron Man team, particularly the fact that he has multiple incarnations of the suit, different functions, things along those lines. But you also got to factor in personality of the person. Tony Stark is a very cavalier, very not even flamboyant, but very just outgoing person. Who is very, he's a socialite, and, he enjoys the attention. He's a genius, as he says, billionaire, playboy, genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, is how he countered Steve's argument in the first Avengers. So I had to pick out some Pokemon that really kind of, I felt, emphasized who Iron Man was. And I mean, the first one that, honestly, that came to mind. Now, this one I chose because it really did fit his, the combination of the suit and his intelligence. That's Metagross. Metagross to me is a perfect Pokemon for Tony Stark. It is a combination. When you really think about it, it's 4 Beldums to a Metang and 2 Metangs to a Metagross, meaning it's 4 Metagrosses, 4 Beldums to a Metagross, or 8. 8 is what I meant to say. 8 Metagrosses, 8 Beldums to a Metagross. God, that gets confusing quick. But it's a giant steel-type psychic Pokemon. It's a genius level in supercomputer and a giant steel monster. That fits perfectly for Tony Stark. Also, it's a tank of a Pokemon. Like, Metagrosses are no... In the games where I am able to catch Beldums or Metangs wild, I will usually try to get one on my team, which, frankly, the only game I've been able to actually do that effectively with is Sun and Moon. And that was only because I figured it out in my second playthrough. I'm like, oh, I can actually catch these things wild here. Okay. Perfect. Because Metagross is one of my favorite pseudo-legendaries. It's this just weird mechanical frog type creature that can float and hover. It's just a cool Pokemon and a beast in battle. And I feel like it really emphasizes Tony's intellect, Tony's suit barrier, Tony's firepower, but the fact that Tony isn't invincible either. It's a very susceptible Pokemon to things like fire, explosives. Although Tony's suits can tank things like nuclear blasts or nuclear level blasts in the comics. Still, it's a fantastic Pokemon, and it's a Pokemon I think very much fits Tony's team. So Metagross was our first pick for the Pokemon. Likewise, to get a quick one out of the way right now. Whoop. I'm going to enlarge him real quick, but there he is. Bisharp. I chose Bisharp. Again, he's a steel type, so representing the suit aspect of Tony Stark. Also, its color scheme kind of fits a little bit with Tony too. It's got a lot of red, it's got some gold in there. Depending on the suit, you got a little black and white. It looks a bit like an Iron Man suit. But also, I wanted a Pokemon that kind of represented Ultron to some degree, just because in certain adaptations of Tony Stark in the Marvel Universe, i.e. Age of Ultron, the next Avengers, the animated movie, Tony is actually the one who creates Ultron in those universes. And I felt like this is maybe one of the closest interpretations to Ultron in Pokemon I could find. So, taking into consideration that it's a Pokemon that is very much similar in appearance to Iron Man, and kind of looks like a dark, evil, twisted version of Iron Man, aka an Ultron. I liked putting a Bisharp on team, so a Bisharp was the next choice. Now we get into the ones that I'm like, okay, now I had to think on a bit. Now, one of the big ones I really wanted to find was I wanted a Pokemon to represent Jarvis. But we don't have an AI Pokemon. We just don't have something like that. But what we do, and I had to think longer. I was like, what is the equivalent of Jarvis? And then I actually realized we don't have an AI Pokemon, but we have a cyberspace Pokemon. We have a Pokemon that is literally a man-made basically a cybernetic Pokemon. And that is Porygon. Porygon is a virtual Pokemon. It doesn't live in the real world. It lives in virtual space, which is where an algorithm or a computer program like Jarvis would live or exist. It's the perfect Pokemon. Now, you might be asking, why didn't I do Porygon Z or Porygon Y? I like the idea that Jarvis gets upgraded, like Iron Man suits. Iron Man suits get upgraded as the series goes on, and so my Tony would probably start with a Porygon. He would probably be someone who would upgrade to Porygon Z, Porygon Y, and if we ever get like an alternate version of Porygon, it's the one Pokemon I've never been able to get, by the way. Well, that's not true. If I go to the game corner in the original game, I can get a Porygon, but so one Pokemon I've actually never acquired on my team is like Porygon or Porygon Z or Porygon X, because I believe it goes Porygon Z and Porygon X, doesn't it? 1 second. Because I don't like trade evolutions. It's the one Pokemon, Porygon Z, Porygon Y? Porygon Z? No, Porygon Z was the final evolution. What was the other one? Porygon... hold on. Evolves from... Oh, Porygon 2. It was just called... Oh, God damn it. Just called Porygon 2 of all things? Ugh. Porygon Z was the final one. Anyway, Porygon 2 to Porygon Z is where I meant to go with that. But I don't like trade evolutions, and it's literally an evolution line that is nothing but trade evolutions. I get it's supposed to get people, it's supposed to be a community thing where people trade and have fun with their friends, but that's no. But point being, Tony Stark would be someone who would, I think, have a Porygon and ultimately upgrade it to a Porygon Z, a Porygon Y, a 2, and then a Porygon Z. So now we're into the big three, the Pokemon that represented some of his really famous suits. And I think I'm actually going to start with the one for the Bleeding Edge. Now, the Bleeding Edge armor in Iron Man, be it both in the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame and in the comics, is a suit that's composed of nanites, and immediately Tony always has it on him, and it forms around his skin in an instant. Now, in the comics, it's actually nanites in his bloodstream. In the movie, it's just a new chest piece he installed that carries nanites in it. But I needed a Pokemon that represented nanites, and I quickly came to the conclusion that we do not have a Pokemon that is actually a combination of a giant amount of little Pokemon into one big Pokemon. We've got Pokemon that are technically multiple Pokemon in one. Execute as example, Phalanx, Magneton. But we don't have anything that's like a collective, like a hive mentality Pokemon that takes the form of one big Pokemon. We don't have that. But we oddly enough have one that can actually fill in the spot for not just the Bleeding Edge armor, but another suit as well. We have one that has an ability that acts like the Bleeding Edge armor. And that comes to Wishiwashi. Whoop, there he is. Wishiwashi! It's particularly obviously Wishiwashi school form. And when you really think about it, this makes 100% sense. A, it can represent his aquatic suits. But B, when you get a high enough level of Wishiwashi, the school form takes effect. And when the school form takes effect, you basically get this giant form, which is clearly be a composite of a bunch of smaller fish. It's supposed to be a giant school of fish. Or shoal, I believe. Shoal or school, I can't remember the term. I know school is the general term, but I know shoal is another term as well. And if you've played Sun and Moon and you go fight the Totem Wishiwashi, you know exactly how tough those things can be. So I felt like this would be, and when you lower the Wishiwashi's health low enough, it does revert back to its single form, which is similar to what happens with Tony when he runs out of nanites with his bleeding edge armors, that he would need to replenish his nanites. So I feel like Wishiwashi's school form is a perfect representation of the bleeding edge armor, surprisingly, and you get the little add bonus of the aquatic armor as well. So Wishiwashi coming in there for the win, man. Now we got the last two, and I wanted something that was obviously going to represent Hulkbuster when talking about Iron Man. You can't talk about an Iron Man suit without talking about the Hulkbuster, and I'm like, okay, it's got to be a big, huge, beefy Pokemon that can just take damage and dish out damage. And appearance-wise, wouldn't hurt either. And I'm thinking, like, okay, a Golurk, maybe. It's big, and it looks kind of like the Hulk armor, but Hulkbuster, but I don't know. That's not one that's really, I'm not feeling that one. There's, you could always go like a Tyranitar, or you could go like a Golem or a Nidoking, but none of those are really hitting the spot in terms of flavor or appearance or design. And then I got the Aggron real quick. I'm like, okay, Aggron's not a bad choice, but it's not the best one. But I quickly realized, Aggron though, has a Mega form, which to me looks a lot more like a Hulkbuster type Pokemon than any other Pokemon I've actually went up or looked for. I'm like, look, I mean, Mega and normal Aggron, I like Aggron. I've actually always liked Aggron. It's also an early Pokemon. I mean, Aggron itself's not an early Pokemon you can get, but Aggron is an early Pokemon you can get in the original Ruby and Sapphire. And Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they actually changed it where you actually have to kind of work to get an Aggron later in the game, because I think they adjusted it knowing it's like, yeah, it's a little, because this thing is kind of beefy Pokemon. It's a rock steel type. It's really not that hard to beat, especially if you have a ground or a fire type or a fighting type, God bless you. But no, it's still a very it's a tank of a Pokemon. It really is. And Mega Aggron, I felt and now it's just a pure steel type, which is fine because it works even better towards the idea of an Iron Man suit. But it's still a really tanky Pokemon. It's highly durable. I've actually used one before, and it's a lot of fun. I like that flat, pointed dome of a head it gets. Honestly, you just take a beefy Pokemon and make it look more beefy, robust, and hard to get through when you Mega Evolve an Aggron. So I highly go with the idea that Aggron is the go-to Pokemon here for a Hulkbuster stand. So Mega Aggron for Iron Man. But we now come to the last Pokemon on Team Iron Man. Now, we talked about the Hulkbuster, we talked about the Bleeding Edge armor, we talked about Jarvis, we just talked about generalizations. But there's an Iron Man armor that, it gets both overlooked and is very much loved by the fans, and that's the Endo Sim armor. The Endo Sim armor is a combination of symbiote, nanites, and Iron Man tech to create basically a liquid metal suit that it's capable of absorbing energy, it's capable of entrapping people, he can command it at will. It's an extremely powerful suit, and if I'm not mistaken, an evil version of Iron Man would have been the one to use it. So I'm like, I wanted the Endo Sim armor, because for anyone who's a big fan of Iron Man, I would have been called out if I had not done a Endo Sim Pokemon. And I think, okay, a metallic metal, and immediately I'm like, oh no, it's got to be Melmetal. 100%, it's got to be Melmetal. It is literally a liquid metal Pokemon. Now I could have gone Meltan, but those are nowhere near as powerful. And let's be honest, it would be a Melmetal. It's got the gold, it's got the silver, it's got the whatever the big chunky pieces of metal are. It is literally like the perfect definition of the Endo Sim armor. It's a perfect Pokemon. It really is for this representation. It's a mythic Pokemon as well, which I believe is a mythic. It's either, I can't remember if it's a legendary or mythic. I think it's mythic. It's a mythical Pokemon as well. It's the only mythical Pokemon too that Ash has actually caught. So good for Ash. You'd think he'd get a win eventually, and he did with the Melmetal. But it's just one of those Pokemon that I've actually always liked the design of it. It's just a really cool Pokemon. I've never had one for obvious reasons, because screw everyone who said, "Oh, let's integrate it with Pokemon Go." No, screw you. Integrate it with something else. I mean, I've honestly never gone out of my way to get event Pokemon. I've just never been one of those guys. So I've never had all the Pokemon ever. I've never had a Darkrai. I've never had an Arceus. I've never had a Mew. And Mews are hard to get too. So actually, Mews are among the hardest of them to get. Although there are giveaways now and then. Anyway, so yeah, Melmetal. I mean, it has its own unique moves. It is a pure Steel type. It can't absorb energy like the Endosim armor actually can. But I still feel it is a really solid representation of the Endosim armor. So, without further ado here, where did that leave us? That leaves us with Metagross, Mega Aggron, Wishiwashi, Porygon, Bisharp, and Melmetal to represent Team Iron Man. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. What do you think Iron Man's team will be? Would you agree with my decisions? Would you change them up? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you folks next time. Hit that bell if you want notifications. Want to review something, put in the comments below. Ideas for anything I do on the channel, including Pokemon team videos, Lanticore videos, what ifs, who would wins, anything I do on the channel, put in the comments below. Let me know. I'll get to that at some point. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you folks next time. Later.